Hello there, everybody. I hope you're all having an absolutely amazing day today. I'm Fanula. I live, work, and garden in glorious Northern California, and we're in Zone 9B. Now, we're just getting over a heat wave. It's still a little bit on the warm side, and I'm home in my garden today, sitting in the shade, contemplating the beautiful flowers I want to pick for my home this morning. And I figured I'd share it with you. So let's wander through my garden and make a beautiful bouquet. What's blooming right now in your garden? Take a look around. I bet you can make a fabulous bouquet also. But I have my tried and true favorites that I know I'm going to add to my July bouquet, and a couple of extra surprises that I bet you've never thought of. So let's get going. First things first, get your supplies ready. Now this is my flower picking bucket, but any kind of big container that you can just pop those blooms in right away, that's going to work for you. I love this one just because it's a great size. I can carry it, and I know it's going to fit all the great flowers I'm going to pick. So if you've never watched any of my previous bouquet videos, some of this might be new to you. So I always recommend, and so does everybody else, that you pick your flowers early in the morning. They're at their best, they're at their peak, they've not suffered any of the stresses of the day. And they always end up lasting longer in the bouquet. Now I'm bringing 2 of my clippers with me, a real fine snips, and then my Felco pruners in case I get some real thorny roses and I decide to do some deadheading at the same time. And then gloves. I don't always wear gloves, but I do know that I'm going to be picking some roses. So having got one thorny thorn stuck in my hands too many, I'm going to wear gloves today. So we're going to start with my favorite rose, which is Coco Loco. I've talked about Coco Loco before, and I'm still not tired of it. I love that rose. It makes such a good focal point for any bouquet because the colors are they go with everything, to be honest. So we're going to start right there and wander through my garden and pick all sorts of flowers from everywhere. So let's get going. So here we are. Here's Coco Loco. I'm going to pick some nice big long stems, but also at the same time prune it so that when I'm cutting the big long stem, I'm pruning to an outward facing leaflet that has at least 5 of the little leaflets on it. So I'm doing some pruning for future blooms. I might catch up on the deadheading when I'm in there. And I'm harvesting gorgeous flowers for my bouquet. So you should pick your roses early in the morning, like I said, and pick a nice tight bud. This bud may not be as tight as classically a florist would pick or anything, but it works really well for my purposes. And pop it straight in the bucket. Now Coco Loco is a floribunda, but my particular one sometimes acts like a hybrid tea with the one beautiful bud at the end of the branch. You can see some of the other branches have multiples on top, which is more classically floribunda, but this is absolutely amazing for a bouquet. This particular bloom is a little too old to pick to bring indoors, but there's a bud right beside it that's coming in. I just take the leaflets off while I'm outside and let them fall to the ground, and then I clean up later. Okay, any more singletons up here? Yes. This one has a little bud right beside it, but that's okay. Okay, that was a really good start. And next, I'm going to go over to my alstroemeria that I love to add. It's very exciting colors, but this kind of July heat is making me think my bouquet needs to be very hot and exciting too. Look at these colors. Aren't they amazing? Okay, I think this ought to do it. I can always come back and get more. I think I'm going to add a few of these recently planted dianthus because talk about hot colors. This is really going to fit with my bouquet. Look at that. If you've never grown dianthus before, they are great in full sun or part shade. And right here, these dianthus are getting that part shade situation. They do get a blast of full sun later in the day though. And I just love the fragrance of them. Long stems, beautiful fragrance. And I cannot recall the name right now, but I'll have it for you by the end of the video. I'm going to pick a few of them. These hot colors just go so well with Coco Loco and that alstroemeria that I added in. Okay, speaking of hot colors, I planted some gladiolus back there in February or so. Let's go see how they're doing. On the way to the gladiolus, I remembered these absolutely adorable dahlias. These are little ball dahlias with which I am obsessed. Hot colors, perfect symmetry. I really, really love them. So looking at them close up on my dining room table is going to be such a treat. This one's a little old. It can finish its life out here. Look how tall they've grown. They just make me so happy in the garden and really happy indoors too. Okay, here's where we are so far. The majority of these blooms are really hot, warm colors. There's another dahlia that has some cooler tones to it, but I think it's going to fit in really, really well. And now for the gladiolus. Okay, let me start by saying I really should have staked my gladiolus. I didn't, so they're very floppy. We had a, fairly hefty windstorm the other day, and they all fell over. But it makes them look weird in the garden, but they're going to look amazing in a bouquet. Look at the intensity of this color. Almost the exact same as the dianthus that I picked. It's going to fit with everything, and Coco Loco is going to look really amazing with this as one of its companions in the arrangement. I don't know, when it's looking good in a homely old bucket, you know it's going to look great in the bouquet. Pay attention, everybody. If you plant gladiolus, make sure you stake them. If you're in a windy area, stake them. If you're not in a windy area, you're also going to want to stake them if you want them looking gorgeous in your garden. It doesn't seem to affect the performance in a bouquet, but I kind of wish I'd staked them so that they'd be upright instead of all flopped over. All right, I also have some white gladiolus, but I think I'll leave them and just stick with the real hot ones. Look at this. I absolutely am in awe of these things. And they are so easy to grow. Basically plant the bulbs and walk away. And something really cool is that gophers do not seem to eat them, which is a really big deal in my garden. Okay, maybe one more. Okay. No, I'll leave that one behind. All right, on to the next thing. We are getting there. I think what I'm going to need is a little bit of filler, a little bit of greenery, and something to help prop everything up once I get it into the vase. There's another rose I think I'm going to add. Gabriel Oak. It is a David Austin English rose that is so fragrant. I love when I bring it indoors because it kind of perfumes the whole dining room area. And then I'll get on to the filler. I've got me a Gabriel Oak. Probably a little more open than it should be for bringing indoors if you're sticking to the rules. But it is so fragrant. It's definitely coming in with me. Now this is July. This time of year, many of my roses' blooms are a little bit smaller than they would have been with their first flush in the spring. And I don't mind that at all. They're still so amazing. But here's a bud. I'm going to get that one too. Okay, a couple of Gabriel Oaks coming in. So Gabriel Oak is one of those English roses that is better behaved. A lot of the David Austin roses around here are really, really thrilled with our fabulous kind of almost coastal climate. We have nice summer days, never or seldom gets too hot. And so many of the David Austins end up getting way bigger than they would if they were grown in England or Seattle or cooler sorts of climates. But Gabriel Austin is very consistent. It stays on the tidier side, even though it is very big and bushy. It's nothing like, say, Graham Thomas, which was originally introduced as a shrub rose, and in my garden is about 15 feet tall, and it's a climber. Same with Gertrude Jekyll. That used to be known as a bush rose. It is a straight up 16-foot tall climber. Gabriel Oak has been in my garden for a couple of years now, and it's very well behaved and very beautiful and very fragrant. I just found a yarrow. This is paprika that I think is going to complement the Coco Loco rose beautifully and add a little bit of ferniness to the whole bouquet. It's just getting going, so I don't have that many to choose from, but I don't need that many to choose from. It's going to be so pretty. When I make a bouquet, I don't sit there in my kitchen and think, okay, I'll go pick this, 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 and this. I let my garden tell me what's going to end up in my house. I didn't even think of this yarrow, but it's going to be amazing with the Coco Loco. The tones are very similar, that kind of difference in color, a lot going on with this particular yarrow. I really like it. The buds are much darker and then they fade really beautifully. Okay. Let's see how we are. Okay, I'm going to pick a little bit of Verbena rigida for complete contrast. Again, it's really vivid, really bright, very hot colors, but it's purple. No other purple. And my bouquet so far, I think it's going to be really amazing. Now, Verbena rigida is one of those plants you plant once, forget about it. It's super drought tolerant. It spreads by kind of underground roots. I would not call it invasive because it's very tidy the way it stayed right here. And it is reliable. One of those plants that you can park at the edge of the irrigation and it seems to do just fine even when the irrigation breaks down. And butterflies love it, honeybees love it, and it makes a great addition to floral arrangements. Okay, and now I'm going to put it all together. So I started with a container I really like for big bouquets. I picked this one because it's very earthy, very neutral. I just love the look of it. And I think those blooms are going to be quite incredible, all displayed in this one. The next thing I do, I have chicken wire rolled into a ball, and I use this to support the blooms. Any of those big blooms that would tend to topple over otherwise are going to stay really nice and upright. Now that is fresh, cold water in there. And now let's get going on this. Now this is a very dramatic bouquet. It's kind of hard to imagine who's going to be the focal point, but the gladiolas are the bigger ones. And the biggest blooms I've got in the whole bucket that I think we'll start with them. I don't follow traditional methods, really. I just start looking at it and creating. That's what I recommend you do as well in your own garden. What are your favorite blooms right now? What really is demanding to come indoors with you? I'll get this out of the way so that you can see a little bit better. Now when you're popping them into your container, you want to make a fresh cut right before you pop them in so that they suck up the water really nicely. Next, I think we're going to go with the Coco Locos. Now, it's really important when you're creating a floral display not to have foliage in the water. They just end up decaying in there, bringing bacteria, and shortening the lifespan of your arrangement. Foliage above the water adds a little bit to the arrangement, I think. But if it ends up not adding to it, you can always take it off. You know, that gladiolus is bringing out the pink tones on my Coco Loco even better than I thought was going to happen. I may end up going back for another one. Next, I'm going to add these beautiful little dark burgundy dahlias. My chickens have gotten out. I could hear the rustling going on in the background. I have these 3 new little New Hampshire red hens. They're not very old. They're very cute. And they are escape artists. They're not supposed to be out there, but they are. And let me tell you a story about these 3. So I brought them home, probably about 6 to 8 weeks ago now. And they were 6 weeks old at the time. So they were big enough to be able to go into my coop, keep them separated from the hens, and they didn't need heat over them. They were old enough to go without heat, which is a great thing to do. It can be really stressful trying to make sure your little baby chicks are warm, but I didn't have to do it with these guys. So they were in a separate part of the chicken coop, away from the big hens, away from the rooster, just because when you're introducing new animals to your flock, you want to make sure they don't get picked on in the night. So there they were. They were in their separate part of the coop, little guys, about quail-sized. Keep that in mind. So that night, their first night, I had them all tucked in. There they were. And they were all in this little red nest box, all 3 of them. But there was something extra in there, and guess what it was? It was a little male quail that decided to move in with my 3 New Hampshire red chicks. It was the cutest thing. Anyway, I'm sure I've got a photo somewhere. I will make sure you get to see that too. It was the cutest thing. Who knows what he was thinking about, but he fell in love with these 3 girls who were all about his size at this point and decided to move in with them. However, they kept growing and he did not. So he did end up staying in there with them for 2 to 3 weeks. Was able to get out every day if he felt like it, but would make sure he was back in at night. And then he moved along. I think they all got so big for him, he decided he'd made a big mistake and he moved out, which was also very funny. But I still see him around and about, and it just makes me laugh. Okay, on with the bouquet. It's coming together. I can see that I might need to get a few more of everything, which is one of the best things about making your own flower arrangements in your own garden. You can just run back out and get a few more of everything. You can see where the gaps are, what colors might be needed, and you run back and get it. One thing I've noticed about using yarrow in a flower arrangement is that when you first put it in to the vase, it can wilt a little dramatically and you think, oh no, it's not going to work. But it always gets strong after a few hours. And now for some purple. Again, I'm stripping off the foliage. Anything that's going to be under the waterline gets cut off. Now this is one flower that never, ever wilts in the beginning. Doesn't go into a state of shock just because I cut it, or put it in an arrangement. Stays upright, remains dramatic and vivid. And it's got a nice airiness to it as well that is very, very appealing, both in the landscape and in the bouquet. Think it needs something. I'm going to wander through and find a little bit of foliage, because foliage will really make quite a difference. I have a couple of different ideas, and let's go explore. We've talked about geranium madarense many times before. This is a big, crazy, gigantic geranium that is a biennial and will be blooming next year on big, gorgeous flowers all the way up to here. Well, the foliage is great in arrangements too. So I'm going to bring a few just leaves with me and see if they work in my arrangement. I'm choosing this Ami. This is Ami Magus Graceland, partly because of the pretty ferny foliage, but look at the blooms on it. I don't have this kind of cool color in my arrangement yet, and if it doesn't work, I'll just make a whole new one. But I think it's going to be nice. I do. And then this beautiful plant. This is a member of the yew family, Taxus, and it's got the most glorious golden foliage when the new growth comes out. I'm going to pick a little bit of this and bring it over to my arrangement, just see if it works, if it adds to it or if it detracts from it. And it needs a little pruning anyway, so it's not going to miss a branch or two. That's one great thing about having conifers in your garden. You've got year-round foliage for any arrangement that you're going to make. And it's beautiful and adding a different texture to the arrangement. I think it's going to look pretty good. All right, anybody else need to come in to my bouquet? Maybe one more of these, and let's get back to it. And here I've got some scented geraniums. These might be the greenery I really need. Again, fabulous fragrance. It's just so amazing. So if I don't use it in this particular arrangement, I will definitely have a use for it. Around here in Zone 9B, scented geraniums come through the winter just fine. And as you can see, they also have some really adorable little blooms, which you can candy, you can eat. The whole thing is edible. Fragrance is amazing. I'm not choosing any of the bits with flowers because I do not need any more flowers in my arrangement, but I do need some greenery. I like how the geranium madarense leaves look. They have that drama that the rest of the bouquet is pretty much composed of drama at this point. So that was a good choice for sure. Also, they kind of prop up some of the blooms because they're really sturdy. The stems are as strong as can be. So any of the blooms like the yarrow that are thinking about falling over right this minute will get propped up by the madarense leaves. Okay, that was a winner. Let's see if this works. I think it will. It's an interesting, it's similar shape to the yarrow, so that fits. And then it's introducing a little bit of ferniness, a little more ferniness to the bouquet. And it's making this cool colored dahlia make a little more sense now that there's a kind of an off-white bloom in there. Again, stripping the foliage, cutting a little bit off the bottom. And popping it in. Now this is a very informal bouquet. This reflects my gardening style. It reflects my love of color in the garden and color in the house. Just like exuberance, you know? It's July. Who isn't exuberant right now? The weather has been so conducive to making fabulous flowers in the garden. I am making the most of it. Now for a little bit of the yew. A little bit of rigid evergreen greenery going in there. Just for a little extra. I love it. I might be going back to get a little more of this. Again, this green, but it's bright green, real chartreuse, and real dark green. Also has some drama to it. So when you're making your own bouquets, when you're at home and you're putting together your arrangement, don't worry too much about it following rules that you see out there. I want to encourage you to make a bouquet that is making you smile, making you happy. Do you love those flowers in there? Do you love the colors? Are you going to be really happy when you bring it indoors? I mean, I know this is not the most perfect bouquet ever if I was to try to pass an exam or win a prize or something, but it is seriously making me happy, and that's all the prize I need. Ah, yeah, this is going to work too. Now, it's a little bit harder to get all the underwater foliage out of when you're using scented geraniums, because there's a lot of leaves on every branch. But I can do it. I am literally bringing my garden indoors right now. So Ami is another one of those ones that wilts a little bit dramatically at first when you cut it, but it too springs right back up again and performs beautifully in your arrangement. Okay. I think I'm done. And again, another one of those great things about making your own arrangements. If this evening I decide it needs one more of something, I just run out to my garden and get it. And there you have it, everybody. One of the hardest things for me about making a bouquet is to know when to stop. I'm still looking around. I'm still seeing things I could add in. But there we go. That's a fun problem to have, isn't it? I am so happy with this bouquet. I hope you enjoyed it as well. One of the main reasons I did this today is to encourage you to get outside in your July garden, look around and see what it is you really want to bring indoors. And I would love to hear about it. What was your favorite pick today, either from my garden or from your own? I'm trying to choose my favorite out of this particular bouquet, and I cannot. I love the combination. I love all the little surprises in here. I'm not nuts about this dahlia on its own, and I cannot even remember its name. On its own, by itself, not crazy about it. But in a combination like this, I absolutely love it. I love how it complements the Ami and the pink in the Coco Loco. So honestly, I am enamored with the whole thing at this point. Can't pick a favorite, but I want to hear about your favorites. What's your favorite thing in your garden? Let me know in a comment. So I hope you liked the video. I hope you share it with your friends. Get everybody outside picking flowers. It is the best thing to do. And if you can, come visit me at Cottage Gardens. There's flowers there too, everywhere. I could do a whole other 5-10 bouquets there alone today. And I'd love to share it with you. I would love if you came in, had a look, have a walk around, and maybe end up going home with your new favorite cut flowers for next year. If you can't visit, you can always find me on Facebook and Instagram. But really, whatever you do, you need to get outside to your own gardens. Enjoy your gardens, pick some flowers, bring them indoors, and enjoy your life as a gardener. Okay, everyone, thanks so much for following today. Thanks, as always, for the comments, for the kind words about my allergies, and just for following. I really, really appreciate it. See you next time, everyone. In the meantime, happy gardening.